Hello everyone, welcome back once again whenever and wherever you're watching. So I'm back with another video now, and this one I hope it's short, because my last one was a little bit too long, but I had like 2 weeks of coming to show plus some other stuff, plus updates, and yeah, it's had to do the whole thing instead of doing it by parts, just get it over with. So today's video, I am going to talk about the two series I mentioned in my last video. I was adding to my, regular reading, which was, sorry about that, which were All New X-Men and The Mysterious Strangers, and uh, just wanna talk, in general, my thoughts on both series, not so much as a specific review, but what attracted me to these books. I talked a little bit about them in my last video, especially on New X-Men. Uh, with the Mysterious Strangers, I've also mentioned a few things I like doing during my reviews of, I think it was the first issue, and I mentioned a little bit more about the first and second issue actually. I mentioned the things that I've been liking, but I would just like to uh, extend, much focus much more specifically on each, and not just give a general impression of a specific issue. So I'll be starting with All New X-Men because this is the, I think, probably uh, the longest one. So I'll try to get the longest one first, and then just go on with the with Mysterious Strangers. So as I mentioned before, I've actually been picking up All New X-Men, and actually my first issue of that book was this one, which is issue 15. Um, you know, I actually wanted to review this issue in particular, when I got it, but my computer kind of died on me before I had the chance. And of course, after that, just I'll be picking up both the previous issues and the new ones as they come out. So I mentioned in my last video that I thought when I heard what the book was gonna what their series was going to be about, I rolled my eyes. I just thought, it's a stupid premise for a book because you know continuity wise, at some point, uh, it would mess things up. I mean, this is a fictional world, not the real world, but within the story, at some point, if nothing actually happened to reflect the changes by having, the original team in the present, all, you know, it wouldn't be a believable story. All realism would probably die with it because there has to be some sort of some sort of effect on the present stories at some point. As long as you had the original team in the present, at some point you have to reflect those changes. The sec the second thing I thought was, well, it's a dumb premise because it wouldn't really last for so it only lasts so long before that premise kind of plays out. um, it wouldn't support an ongoing for a very long time. That's the problem with books that have a specific premise. you can only play with it for so long before it plays out, and then you have to go through a change of direction just to keep the book fresh. So I thought, well, it's a very dumb idea, because how can you have an ongoing with such a limited premise? At some point, you have to play that whole thing out, and the uh, original X-Men would have to go back to their own time period. But then, of course, you think, but while they are in the present, as long as you have a set time for such a thing to play out, you can actually have a lot of very interesting stories. Comics, as they are, events could take, comic book time. An issue could be a day, or it could be an hour, or 5 minutes. Depending how long you can stretch such the story within an issue. Especially now that storytelling is decompressed, you could have, you know, you can have 20 issues, and it would be happening in just a matter of minutes, not, or it could be days or weeks for a story to play out within the various issues. So I thought, well, you have the young X-Men in the present, and seeing you know the current status quo of the X-Men, you could really have very interesting stories. Uh, so that, well, I'm curious to see what they're gonna do anyways. So when it came out, I actually considered buying it, but being a 3.99 book, I'm kind of in the fence for I mean, it's not even 32 pages. The 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 issues, there are 28 pages in total. I believe there are 20 pages of story plus 8 pages of ads. So that kind of makes me kind of like, that's one of the things that's kept me from Marvel for a very long time, the fact that they're charging you more for less. Except Marvel has been adding both the AR code, and the a free uh, digital copy. So that kind of sort of makes up for the lack of pages, if you will. While when at DC you have, I have to agree, the covers on Marvel's books are kind of flimsy, and you have a 3.99 book by DC. It's got very nice, glossy, heavy stock covers, and most of Marvel books are a little bit flimsier, the covers, and in fact I think the paper is different, the paper stock for the covers, than what DC has for their 2.99. I think their 2.99 books at DC is much more smoother than a Marvel book, because Marvel books have a bit more of a, I don't know, kind of a rougher edge to them. I don't know, just feel different. So anyways, uh so I was curious, but I decided not to buy it. I passed it up, for months, and I kept hearing good things about the book, and I was curious, but I was like, nah, no, it's 3.99. I have to stick with my principles, and not give in. I gave in when issue 15 came out. When I saw the preview of issue 15, different artists, by the way, but I like the artist for this specific issue, for issue 15. It kind of it fits. So what actually got me to pick up the book was when I saw the previews up in the newsarama. This whole page actually sold me to it. The whole page, I thought, this seems like classic Bendis. So this practically told me to the issue. So the week after it came out, I bought it, and I loved it, and I think I bought both issue 15 and issue number 2 at the same time. I think I don't remember. I think no, I bought issue 15, then I bought issue number 2, and I really like the story, and I like what they were doing. And you know the past few days I actually got to thinking a little bit more about the title, and as it turned out, I actually found some very interesting things that I didn't really think about at the time being, which was that the whole idea of the book kind of takes everything we know about time travel and you know messes it up with it. Uh, it just you know like forever evil. It just kind of takes an idea and it twists it around and takes it by the ear, and just completely different. uh for time travel story, usually you have two things: either a character from the future comes to the past to fix the future. Think about Cable, Bishop, those X-Men characters that come from a non-determined future. You're never going to see that future play out in the X-Men books. You're never gonna reach that future, but it's a future that has to be fixed, and we never really see the results of the presence of the future characters into their own future. You know, it's kind of complicated science fiction, if you will, but it never happens. It's not an ending point. It's a possible ending point for the stories, but unless the writer wants to take you to that specific future, you're never going to see it in the comics, except as part of a story. Uh, but it's never going to be an attainable thing. Then you have the other side, something like in the X-Men universe, Age of Apocalypse, where Legion goes back to the past to kill Magneto before he became Magneto, so that Professor X wouldn't have to create the X-Men, and Legion will be able to have a father. It all goes wrong. Legion ends up killing Professor X. The present gets all messed up. So now a certain group of characters, of heroes, has to go back to the past to fix the mistake in the first place, and then sort of reestablish the status quo. So it's changeable. There's a certain flexibility there. But then you take something like All New X-Men, where the Beast goes to the past to pick up the original team, brings them to the present, which is the future for them. And here it's not as flexible as you might think. I mean, this is the status quo that we've been reading for a while. This is the buildup of years of stories, of character development. That was sort of what with Stan Lee and Chris Claremont, Scott Lobdell, all those guys up until now. So the young X-Men see their future, but will when you take them back to the past, will anything change? And so my hope is that at the end of Battle of the Atom, um, of the Atom, that there is a payoff, and maybe some things change in X-Men history, because it'd be the logical thing. I think, even if you, because it would be a bad thing, be a poor decision creatively, that you do this big crossover, to get the young X-Men back to their timeline, to their proper time, and really not have a payoff on that. I mean, you send them back in time, and what is the status quo gonna be the same, and you're just gonna change the direction of the book, or of the X-Men books? Um, there has to be some sort of payoff on that. Um, but we'll see what happens uh, in the coming weeks, until the series end, the crossover ends. But like I said, so there are some good stories. I'm really enjoying what I've read so far. It's a very interesting idea, but I think the more interesting ideas doesn't come from a general um, plot point, plot part of the plot or story, but more on the character work. I actually uh, because how does this affect the young X-Men? So that's where the big story point is, and you can actually see it in Jean Grey. That's a heartbreaking story for Jean. That's knowing that she's going to die. She's trying to avoid, not to fulfill that. It seems that, at least to her, that's her destiny, and it can't be changed, and probably it won't be changed, or maybe it will. Who knows what you know this crossover takes us to. What the final ending to the story will be, and what the payoff to this whole event is going to be. And like I said, I hope they do change things, because if you go and just continue with the status quo, then that would be very anticlimactic ending. So there's gotta be a few things that really do need to change, just to make it more than just another story. And you've got all this expectation. So far I guess it's been at least for me, issue 16 was a pretty good issue. you know uh, so you have all this expectation for this story, that it has to end big. And yeah, I think it should have a you know change, continuity changes, big changes. And I wouldn't mind that suddenly you have certain characters that died, or whatever, or have things be different in X-Men continuity. I mean, Marvel has done it with Spider-Man, but did this they're doing these big changes to the character and to his continuity. I mean, One More Day really did mess up a lot of stuff, and I wasn't very happy about that. I wasn't reading Spider-Man then, but it really didn't make me very happy when they ended the whole Mary Jane marriage with Peter, because it was done in a way that was forced. Like, you could say, using a character that doesn't really, fit into Spider-Man's world. But if you change, you know, X-Men continuity, based on this crossover and this whole series, um, I would be okay with that because it would be a much more organic change. The X-Men are sent to the past once again. Maybe their memory gets wiped out, or maybe something happens that might change a few things. Uh, and I'll be okay because of the nature of the story, and it's a very valid, uh, a very valid change, because I would mind a lot of that, just flows from whatever the conclusion for this, for the battle of the atom is going to bring. I mean, and then of course, that's in a whole, but specifically for battle of the atom, though, uh, I'm gonna spoil if you haven't seen it. This revelation, that one of the future X-Men that shows up is actually Nigel Jean Grey. You know, now for this crossover specifically, I'm interested to see how that's gonna play out within the other books when the future X-Men, meet up with you know Cyclops team, and Cyclops sees Jean. How's he gonna react to that? There's a lot of things here specifically in here that I'm really curious to follow, but I'm not sure I'll be picking up the whole series. But again, just opens a whole bunch of excitement for the crossover. So that's it for all new X-Men. So now we're going to go to uh, um, the mysterious strangers. Uh, uh, when Free Comic Book Day came out, and I heard about this original title, is Strangers, with written by Chris Robertson and art by Scott Kowalchuk. I think that's how you pronounce it. I was very interested because of what the premise of the book is. It's sort of homage, and I've said this before, as an homage to the old 1960s spy adventure shows. And I did basically mention that you have a like a teaser, an opening here. Then you go to the credits page, where we're introduced to the characters, and then you get the adventure that they're do the main story, if you will, or the adventure of the day, or you know to the main story. Uh, so I really dig that. Also, I really like that there are two issues. Each story is two parts, and despite you have this previously summary here, you actually get one with a couple of panels, a few panels, uh, where you get the summary of what happened in the last issue. Again, you get a credits page where you get the title of the story and the introduction to the each character, and so it's really playing out into the whole, if this were a TV show thing from the 1960s. The other thing I like is the art, which is it's a very simple art, you know very simple art. This issue one, well, uh but again, it kind of fits into the whole retro feel of the book. you know you could actually see this, coming out, during the 60s, just because of the simplicity of the art and the fact that the coloring itself, is very, it's bright, of course, it's flat coloring. Um, it doesn't have as much texturization, if you will, like any other book that you buy, that you see. It's, very, and not only that, not only have a very nice flat coloring, something you might, how it was done in this back in the day, not too many effects on it, but the whole page layout of the book, it's traditional, very traditional layouts. No bleeding, no major, double page spreads. Just sticks within, you know, very traditional layouts as well. The stories themselves are fairly simple, and that actually really helps. Again, to bring that Silver Age type of feel to the book, because being that so far each story is a two-parter. Here's issue number 3. Again, part 1 of 2. Uh, the simplicity of it all allows it to be a much more compressed thing. So, despite the fact that it takes 2 issues to tell a story, each issue is compressed enough that you get a full reading experience. If you suddenly have, if you try to make it a little bit more complex, that really adds to making the stories last a lot more. You probably get something like all new X-Men, where the story starts developing, throughout various issues. So here you have a very compressed story, which is fine. I mean, you have, just focus on the plot, not so much on the subplots. There are no subplots. So, just get the story at, you're getting in each issue, in each 2 issues, part 1, part 2. And the other thing, it's light-hearted reading, really. It's an enjoyable book. Just reading issue 3 when I got it, I was laughing and smiling. I get what they were doing. The little sort of reference to the Beatles. Actually, one of the things I like. I'm a Beatles fan, so one of the things I actually liked a lot was that you sort of get the Beatle vibe, but not necessarily. It's a little play on that. One of the characters actually does look like, John Lennon, for example. This character is like John Lennon, and I know they have a you know the a black uh, uh, band member, who actually ends up looking a lot like Jimi Hendrix. So you know that just got me smiling. Like, yeah, I get it. Uh, you have a you have the one of the guys is the one of the guitarists is actually here, you get a bit of that sort of Beatles vibe. They have this, here the one of the members is black, and they they made him look like Jimi Hendrix here. So, which And I just and that sort of little play on that on pop culture of maybe the 60s, particularly here, Matt Gott's Englishman Part 1, the whole Beatles thing, the Beatles post 19, probably around 66, 67, you know, they had the opportunity to sort of, little nudge to Lennon or to Hendrix, just to me, it's a very fun book. I know it's not, the greatest masterpiece ever, but sometimes I like reading, and this series is, pretty much like reading, and it's got all this mysticism and sci-fi stuff. I could really imagine something like that coming out in the 60s, and I love the retro feel to it. So I'll probably keep buying this series as long as I keep seeing at my shop. Actually, issue three was the only one in my shop that I saw, and I believe issue 16 here, was also the only copy in my shop when I bought it last week. Um, and I'll probably try to get all the issues as soon as they come out. If not, I might probably risk uh, buying them the following week. Um, so in conclusion, I guess I'm very pleased that I decided to uh, try all new X-Men and finding that I like it a lot. And uh, I believe that after Battle of the Atom, there might be a few changes to the book. So I'll probably keep buying it anyway, because once I commit myself to something, I try to follow through. Not always, depending on circumstances. I buy a series for a few issues, and maybe something doesn't allow me to continue. That sort of happened with me with Earth 2. I actually bought the first few issues, probably first 2 or 3 issues, and I was buying way too many books, and I decided to cut some. So this being one of my regular reads, but not part of my pool, I was able to drop it and pick it up uh, later. Um, and I'll probably be picking that. Haven't bought a new issue of Earth 2 for a while, but at least I got the first story arc finished, and I'll probably keep on buying all new X-Men, and as long as I can squeeze it in, probably even risk buying it not in the same day it comes out, but probably the following week. It all depends. But I'm glad I tried that book. I really enjoyed it, and well, I really enjoyed it, and same goes for the Mysterious Strangers. I was glad I got that first issue on Free Comic Book Day, and to get me, you know, interested in it to keep buying the issues as long as I kept seeing them at the shop. I'm always on the lookout for that book because being an indie book, all the Mysterious Strangers being an Oni press book, the shop doesn't order as much as some of the other stuff. Curiously, curiously enough, like I mentioned, Only X-Men number 16 was like the only issue of the book, the last issue of the book that I saw at the shop, but they had you know, a whole bunch of Battle of the Atom number 1 issues. So I might pick those up. I might pick up X-Men, which came out last week. Probably be picking up Uncanny X-Men. Maybe not right away, but maybe. It just depends on what I want. But I actually do want to continue with the getting the back issues for new X-Men, and I still have to keep getting those Ultimate X-Men books that I'm missing. But glad I picked those up, and if I can follow uh, Battle of Yadam through com- through the other books, just as I said, I got that one title. Anyways, it's almost running out of time here because it's getting a little bit long. So until next time, keep smiling.